Welcome everybody on this closing session of our first tryout of learning and development integration within the EAPRIL conference. Our target, as I said yesterday, is the first step. Our target is very clear to continue this in the future. And for this we try to use different ways of input to find out exactly what is the best steps, the best things we can do for next year. Let's first just have an overview. What did we reach or what did we achieve in 2014? One hand, we developed our first learning compass, which gave us some insights in the kind of learning analytics that are used within companies and that can nurture us to see what of these things should we work further on in the future. The second is we found that one of the important conclusions is there's more need and a growing need to find ways to describe and to measure informal learning. And we have started the project. One of the things that I was struck by is the amount of interest. I just heard it 1 hour ago. We did a kind of survey towards companies in Belgium on informal learning, and the response was overwhelming. So this means we will have interesting material. Also from the press there was interest even before we really have a result. We are just starting. But it shows that we try to touch on topics which are corresponding to a demand. And we hope, especially even before the next conference, to already share the results of this study of informal learning. This was a little bit a top-down perspective. But we also did the opposite work, and I like to thank Anke very much for her ideas to do this. And she actually, you are coming right from university, and you are now working with the EAPRIL office, and you suggested maybe we should do some social media research and look what professionals, because surveys don't work that well anymore. Maybe we should look and do some kind of social media research to find what do people in their daily practice need. And if you see what we just heard from Professor Billet, we learn probably most while we are working. While we are working, we encounter problems, we encounter questions, we want to find answers on it. And from that perspective, you did some research, especially trying to find out what do professionals in learning and development need. Of course, there's a difference between the consultants and the smaller companies and the big companies and the international companies. But still there are some topics where they need, where they have a lack of information, lack of knowledge. Sometimes it exists, it can also mean it's not spread enough. And so instead of asking it through a big survey, Anke said maybe we should go and look where people are working every day, and today that's in the social media. If I understand it well, that's where you went looking for more information. And you did a social media search, and especially in all kind of interest groups. If I understood it well, you looked especially to all learning and development groups related to learning and development or corporate learning in LinkedIn, which is one of the more professional networks, as well as in Facebook. You also say people come there because they can ask questions quite freely and get responses from peers, not necessarily by paid consultants or something, but just exchanging. So you think it's very true what we find there, and it's also a way to reach a large group. I'm just asking to all of you, who is regularly using social media to ask questions or to find information in this group? Half. So there's two developments. And one of the things I'm asking to several people, what are the topics and how can we structure them? And you've seen the 16 categories, that's one way to structure. I received the email yesterday from Pascal, who is president of VOV, where you also did this exercise and had a few groups. Also Anke has this, so we are looking what are the most hot topics. And Anke found 410 reactions, and you clustered them into 30 different categories, right? And you also asked a question. What are you looking for? So what did you find out of this? You found many different questions. Some of them are very practical. How does the person behind the employee experience the learning? Engagement, transfer are questions that come back quite often. Is there proof that so-called learning organizations work better than otherwise? Maybe the answer is not that simple. We hear a lot about culture and strategy, but does it really have impact? Yes, of course, to have answers on these questions, you have some quantitative answers where we need to measure. You also can have qualitative answers with different opinions. And you find the top 5, and personally I found this very interesting. So it's a bit the same with those two. And what you found is that most of the questions today are still over about e-learning, right? About the use of technology and the effectiveness of it. And just the answer I just asked you show that also everyone here not yet so convinced, is it really helping us? We have a lot of other things to do, but that's one important question. A second question has to do with evaluation and measurement, and you put between brackets benchmarking. And why did you do this?
Because most of the questions were asked about evaluation measurements, and also a lot of them were about, you can say about benchmarking, which are the best practices, which are the things where we can take a measurement and we can compare it to another best practice.
Are these two things? Because benchmarking is a little bit more numbers, while best practices is more cases, and is that right?
Yeah, but benchmarking, so the numbers of the best practice you can use in benchmarking, so that's why.
Then the third one, it's a very hot topic, we also had opinions, is about leadership development. A fourth topic was inspiring metaphors and quotes. What does that mean?
There are a lot of people that quote an important person with a nice quote or metaphors, and others can use it in other PowerPoints or just to inspire other people, like a message of the day or something.
Yeah. It's like the tweets we sent.
Yeah.
Tweets which enlighten us. So there's a need for this. And then I'm going to make presentation and communication skills. There's still a lot of questions. And how did they sound, these kind of questions?
How did they act?
Yeah. What does it mean, presentation?
Like, how can I keep people motivated to listen to my presentation? How can I attract the attention? Like this practical question.
Yes, that's a very difficult issue. Do you recognize these questions? Now I just asked you, e-learning, who in this room say I also have a lot of questions about this? 1, 2. So you see, depending on the audience, we get different results, right? So is it because it's clear to all of you, or? Okay. Evaluation and measurement, benchmarking. Who in this room say that? That's also something I'm really concerned with. It's more. Yeah. A leadership development.
E-learning, Patrick, I think.
Of course, e-learning. What is e-learning?
It's a very vague concept, but still there are an enormous amount of puzzles around it, because we all know that, I mean, in 10 years from now, all learning is e-learning. I mean, why would we use the word any longer? Because everything we're going to do is going to be using networks and internet and electronic files and all things like that. And there are a lot of questions about what is effective, what is not, what learning management system should you use, why should you do that, can you do it better in other ways, what are the arguments to use specific scenarios in e-learning systems, etc. So
were you yesterday present at the
yes.
of Mr. It's very interesting. I love this. He said e-learning is out within 5 years, and you say within 10 years there's nothing else but e-learning. And personally, as mostly, I believe both of you are right. What's the difference here?
No one will speak of e-learning anymore.
No, the word e-learning will disappear. It is typically a word of our generation. You know, when I started my business in 1994, that's when the internet just came on, and a few years later we had e-mamas, we had e-commerce, we had e-banking, we had e-learning, we had e-training. That was because it's new. For the new generation, it's obvious. And I think when Mr. Van Hooijdonk yesterday said e-learning is out, what he meant is the course ID translated into e-learning. Courses that you follow during 1 hour is out. I think there is right. Because it's typically many technologies, we first misuse them. And we copy our models of the past into a new technology. It was the same with websites. In the beginning of websites, all of them were static. And now this is completely over. I think when Philippe says, well, in 10 years everything is e-learning, I think he's also right. Because we cannot work anymore without using the technology. And the E, if it stands for connection, for technology, then you are right.
I'm actually doing a project investigating virtual teams. One of the problems is that almost all teams are partly virtual.
These days.
These days, because even if we meet in a room, we have communicated before through email and we have chatted with each other. So all the teams are partly virtual. It's the same issue.
Frank, welcome. Inspiring metaphors and quotes, is this something you say we are searching for it?
Yes, we want to get rid of the quote 70, 20, 10. So, but I do find it also amazing because in the last weeks I was talking to several people from large companies, different companies, retail companies, banking companies, and they all know the concept 70, 20, 10. They all know that there is no sound scientific grounding for it, but they all say we use it in our company. Now, that's a little bit of worrying for a person like me who
He's a professor
who
at
is
the university.
So I think if EAPRIL has interesting outcomes of projects, we should of course have an interesting metaphor to or a quote to communicate it to the corporate world. And it should not be longer than 3 or 5 words. Maybe 3 numbers would be enough.
Anyhow, he judged himself after 2070. He produced another article which was named, I think, 1874 or something like this. I fully agree with you. I think it's sometimes a dangerous concept. But it's like everything. Do you understand it or do we misuse it? And what it's really saying is a little bit the same like what we heard from Mr. Billet. Yeah. Now, there are many other ways than learning in classrooms. We learn a lot from each other, and we learn a lot while we are working. And probably we can sustain this with technology more and more than we could 10 or 15 years before. And I think that's also the reason why this e-learning here is so high. I think the real question behind this is not e-learning, but how do we use technology to enhance learning? I prefer the term technology-enhanced learning, but the problem in all our business is that all these words sound too complex for those who are not in the business, and even for those who are in the business, depending on where you come from, depending on your region, we understand different things.
I prefer the word learning management systems.
Oh, that's a long discussion that we can have later. But it's, yeah, we will not start this discussion now. I have a course which is called XMS, where you have training management systems, learning management systems, competence management systems, evaluation management systems, assessment management systems, all management systems. Okay. It comes also with the second issue, evaluation and measurements. Then leadership development, presentation and communication skills, and here it's a little bit different. Inspiration, metaphors and quotes. I just give you this as what came out of the research of Anke in social media. Of course, it would be defined with many more practical questions. Now, I'd like to have a little discussion with you. We have how much time? Another 10-15 minutes. Not only from this, but what will we do in the future? You have now experienced our first conference, the first day. This afternoon with the board and with our member networks, we have a meeting about how will we organize the EAPRIL learning and development part next year. We have already a few ideas, and I told you 2 important ideas is we believe it would be useful to start developing one kind of quantitative research which is trying to benchmark, but more sector-based than generally. That's one idea we have. A second idea we have is to do some more in-depth projects. For example, this means working together with companies and giving examples of, for example, how did you measure return on investment? Or how do you cope with informal learning? Or how do you localize your global programs? Such kind of questions. Yes, these are the 2 pathways we have for the moment. Would you find it useful, or do you have suggestions or feedback on the conference we had the last day? What can be enhanced and what we should do next year? We will be very grateful for that. You have been very present, so I'd be very happy to hear your opinion.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here, and as a representative from a business or a company, HR director as I am,
Okay.
I found very useful case studies. For example, about the Schiphol Airport. It was very good, and it's like, for me, it's very important to see real case examples of the companies who were successful in learning and development, because it's like, for me as a practitioner, it's very important to understand what is right tools to make people learn and to make them understand that it is important for them to do that, because it's like we can use one or another approach, but in the end it's how learners accept their responsibility for their learning. I guess it's one of very important parts of success.
Yes, yes, yes. So what I hear from you is actually you support the second in-depth research projects and cases. As we heard this morning from Mr. Cadet, we do learn a lot just by imitating, by seeing how did you solve it and absorbing this. What kind of topics would you like to see cases about? If you have 3 topics you could choose, what would you choose?
I don't think you can ask others.
Okay, think about it. I have a question to other people. What would you like to see next year? Do you have specific topics that you say, we'd like to see cases about this, or we'd like to have to use this approach or this method?
You mentioned it as an example, so does organizational learning really makes a better company or organization? It's always, it's my belief, but maybe it's only a belief.
I'm also working a lot with small and medium companies, together with the Chambers of Commerce. And you know, there's Plato, and Plato is a concept in Belgium, it's learning networks. And together with Vlerik, we did a study, and we looked simply the companies that have followed these learning networks. After 3 years, do we see a difference in their profitability and in their management compared with those companies that didn't follow it? You suggest something like a little bit the same. Maybe we could look some companies that say we are strong in organizational learning. Okay, let's look. Does this have impact on your results? Of course, there's no direct relationship. If by accident you are in the wrong sector, maybe your results will go down, even if, but it could be, that's a challenge that you say, maybe that would be interesting. Okay? Other? Yes?
I think it's nice to work also on small and medium enterprises. Because examples from big international companies are not always useful for the majority of our companies.
Yes.
And we all know that the future will be more small companies and less big companies.
Yes, yes. And even the mix between. There was on another congress of the Chambers of Commerce 1 year ago. And they said that the most successful companies for the moment are medium companies which are very focused and going global immediately. Then when I heard your presentation about global and localization and about the risk of too much standardization and the risk of too much one approach, I was wondering what's happening in these smaller companies that don't have the resources to book big departments. And I fully agree with you that maybe we should also focus more on small and medium companies, yes. May I look to this side of the...
I think what's interesting is to have the insights of the research firms, but it's always difficult to translate them. And
yes, also this is very important, because actually one of the main reasons why we want to blend this is because I saw in the past too much nice research which was not applicated. Even more, my scripture when I was a student 30 years ago was about the question, why do some professors tell such interesting and beautiful things, and why don't we do something with it? And that's actually what you are saying. And what kind of research would you be interested in?
different kinds, but yeah.
Yeah. Take some time, that's the same question as I had here. I see you also having ideas.
Yeah, I'm toying with her idea, so it would be nice to, what I would like is like, I saw a lot of cases that told stories. It would be nice to combine them with a researcher who then maybe looks at the same story from
a
the model
view,
side.
Yeah, that was one of the suggestions. Are you somebody writing down all these ideas? Great.
Well, I'm a researcher.
You're a researcher, okay.
So,
I like to hear all point of views.
Well, I think I'm maybe an odd one out. I'm not really into educational research.
Okay.
My field is actually game-based learning.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So if I would be interested in something as a pathway, it would be that.
Are there companies using games in an effective way?
Not really. So I would be interested in
There are very nice examples.
where exactly is the potential, or is it just a theoretical potential? But that's maybe too specific.
There are very, very strong examples, especially mini games, small games, focused. Once we made a game to fill airplanes for DHL.
Oh yeah.
This game just went viral. So, because people like to compare each other, and there's also a lot about gamification. So that would be a nice topic. I like to listen to, yes, Sam?
I will let also my colleague speak. Well, we have a mixed feeling about this session.
Yes. About this session.
Well, there was
please tell us, give us feedback.
Because there are very few people from corporate. We are 3 or 4 out of 280 or 320 people. So that's we feel lost. Lost. We are in another world.
Yes.
This is another world. And when you propose to people from the university to speak about the issue for globalization, incorporation, that we probably move towards the universities and the education world in the coming years, nobody's interested. We had 6 people in our presentation. So we came at 3 to make a presentation, we had 6 participants. So we are really very disappointed. The first one. Second thing, most of the people are from the Netherlands and Belgium. We are 3 French guys. Where are you from? Where to? Lettonia, yeah. We met someone from Germany and that's it. So is it the European network or is it Netherlands and Belgium network? We don't know. We are interested in European contacts. We love people from the Netherlands and Belgium. again, we feel completely lost.
I understand
this is not well, this is not the issue.
I'm glad you expressed this. I also think that distance is a very important reason. I had several people who told me we cannot. But
we also, our feeling also is that people were very interested by what we call tools, pedagogical tools. Okay. Well, I'm not saying it's not interesting, but this is a very, very little element of the learning problematic, not only in corporations, the organizations, the profile of people who are in charge of that, etc. It's completely absent from the thinking. They even don't know that it does exist. Okay? So, maybe it should be interesting to enlarge a little bit the scope of interest the participants on other topics.
Yes.
And the last one, but maybe I will come back. I think that there was a problem of organization with the different sessions, with the different commissions and sessions. As we were only 40 people, I think, from the Learning and Development Network, I think it was an error to have in parallel 2 or 3 commissions, because we had 6 people in our presentation.
We all had 4 or 5.
5 people?
9. It's a big success.
And the German lady with the youth path, we were 3.
Yeah.
If we had been all together, we could have shared, and I think that everybody would have been interested by the subject. So, well, there is a real issue of those organizations. And to be frank with you, Patrick, we are really wondering if we are going to continue to work with EAPRIL.
Okay.
No, this is not a choice. This is not a threat. No, this is a choice. No, we are going to continue next year because we think it's really interesting and we want to help you and develop. But we absolutely need to enlarge to other corporate folks, other countries, other problematics, etc. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really narrow.
Yes, I fully agree with you.
You agree with me?
So what can the networks do?
Reactions.
What can the networks do in that? What can the networks do in that?
That's a very good question. We have a meeting about this topic this afternoon. What can the networks do about this? I think it has but that's of course, this afternoon we have a network meeting. We will be only 2 networks for the moment. But I think that's a very important topic we will discuss this afternoon. Thank you very much. I think it's very important also for the other people to hear your feedback. Yeah. Well, because I think I'm not amazed about it. Some things we felt, but okay, sometimes you need to take a step, fall, learn while you work.
When you said this afternoon that there is a network meeting, we didn't know about it. Where is it? Are we invited?
I think innocent.
We were invited, but we didn't receive anything about that. Yeah?
No, I think I also saw you received email.
Sorry.
Anyhow,
yes. Sorry for that.
But no problem, misunderstanding is a normal part of what time is it? It's 2:30. And where? In the board meeting room. This is the room when you go down the stairs, just on your right side. No problem. Okay, you had also...
It's just from my personal experience that if you want to enlarge and have people from smaller companies, I think that the price to come to the conference is too high.
Yes.
I had a real struggle with my external supervisor, the company, who said, we actually have to pay about 2,000 euros to go to a conference and present. That's for a small and medium-sized company, a very big amount to invest for a half an hour presentation.
I'm very happy to hear your feedback, your honest feedback, because only with this we can do so. More reactions? Yes?
Yes.
So very active.
I have reactions on the topics.
Yeah.
And as coming from a different sector, but working on interesting issues like you on learning and development, I didn't know that it was so close only to the corporate sector. But when you look on your categories that were in your learning, in your analytical research, there are approaches which you can work on, because how to develop, how to work on learning needs, motivation, etc., etc. These are crucial parts of all tools that we have. I mean, there were sessions here about assessment. If you generalize these topics, then you can, then I think you can gain more interest also, because although we are not coming from the corporate sector, we are working with people who will enter this sector or who are connected, and we are working with learning and learning.
Yes.
So the